I think CJ is the KOM of the hyperbaric chamber. He's got a KOM.
Shout out Chiller. Shout out Chiller in Pleasant Grove, Utah. If you're in Utah County.
Is that an activity in Strava?
I should have.
You should have. Every single one of them.
It's not on Strava. It's in Whoop.
It is in Whoop.
It is
Local
in
legend.
Whoop.
He's a local legend.
I'm a local
for sure.
legend at the Chiller hyperbaric.
There we go.
Welcome to Brainstoke. I'm Tom Telford, a.k.a. Kurt Cobain. These guys may not even know who Kurt Cobain
They're way
is,
too
right?
young for it.
Nirvana? Come on, Smells Like Teen Spirit.
I mean, it's a little out of our range there.
Not ringing a bell.
Here we go. Preston Niederhauser in-house. Bikes Change Lives, guys. So fun to have you. We're going to have you introduce yourselves, but real quick, thank you, Bolt Shave, Adam Barker, for your sponsorship. Levo, always, mental health. Preston's repping Seven Bros.
Yeah.
Best burger in Utah.
The Shem burger, baby.
Are you the Shem guy?
I love the Shem. Yes. Yes.
Those fries are trouble, too. It's so good. So good. Anyway, all that to say, welcome.
Appreciate it.
Great to have you
having us.
guys.
Okay,
So-
we've got Jaxon and CJ, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. I got to know this for CJ.
Okay.
Do you spend more on race entry fees or hair product?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, the hair, there's a strict routine there. There's a strict routine.
Teach us, please.
I've tried every mousse out there, right? But it starts in the shower. You can't wash your hair too much. Just you got to leave those natural oils in there.
What are you saying? Just slightly dirty?
I mean, it's just a little frizzy
A
there,
little
Tom.
ratty?
But can't wash it too much. Never comb. Towel dry, and then you got to use Dove Soft Curls Mousse. Best out there. Get it at Walmart.
Wow.
$6.
Not
See?
sponsored.
It's college.
Send
college
the check,
budget.
Dove. Send the check.
It's early 20s approved budget wise, right there at $6. And I'm probably at the Walmart like every other week getting that because I go through a fair amount.
Okay.
But you don't want it to be crispy.
Yeah.
You want it to be, soft curls flowing.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah.
You might end up there one day. Who
When
knows?
we started collabing, I'm like, I have to bring my hair game for this episode.
Yeah.
And it's Halloween soon, so,
There you go.
This is my shout out to CJ.
I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Absolutely.
Our dad started with hair like CJ. Now he's going bald. So CJ's on his way there.
Yeah. It's just a natural progression, right?
Does your dad rock a mustache like you two?
No, he won't do it.
He won't.
These two.
Yeah. Strong. Marlboro man.
Yep.
Awesome. I love it. CJ, Jaxon, tell us a little bit about you. Just however you want to do that. I don't know. I'm not sure who leads in, what's normal, who's older, younger, but tell us about you two.
Yeah. So I'm CJ Wiggins. 23 years old. I recently graduated from Utah Tech University. I am a passionate adventurer, a big time family man. I am.
Gotta pull this off. I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going. Keep going.
No, yeah, I'm passionate adventure, huge family guy. Love being close to my family, spending time with family. I genuinely love people and love seeing people, better themselves or see what they're doing every day that makes them happy. I am creative. I love to do pottery. I love to do anything creative. I am a cyclist and entrepreneur recently. After graduating, I've gone into that world. But yeah, just love life, love people, and want to see people happy, really.
Cool.
Yeah. Right on. Jaxon.
My name is Jaxon Wiggins. I am 20 years old. I am currently studying at UVU, and I recently just got married 4 months ago, and it was really cool. CJ actually married us.
I did.
And that was to my my high school sweetheart.
We
CJ
got to hear
married us.
this story.
Seriously.
It was a special day for sure.
Yeah, everyone was bawling.
Yeah.
Everyone was crying.
You got everyone bawling?
Oh,
Was
yeah.
Was it your doing? The things
Yeah.
you said?
I mean, I lived with them. So like us three lived in a place down in St. George all of last year. And I actually went on their first date with them. It was a double date. And ever since then, it's been like a little trio. Like we're just like all best friends. So I got to see it from like beginning first date stage to marriage. And it was an honor being able to be up there with him and marry the two of them. And it was
Very cool.
Very exciting for sure.
Yeah. And then kind of go a little bit further is how I got into cycling is NICA, played team sports, and then I kind of wanted to just learn how to do something more for myself and not have a coach that told me what I can and can't do, and whatever I put in is what I get out. So that's me.
That's awesome. Where did you race NICA?
Pleasant Grove.
PG. Nice. Very cool. I want to hear more about this. Like, did you get an official ministering? Are you a man of the cloth? Do you have the card?
I'm a minister. I am. But
I don't know what
come
it
to
is.
find out, like you literally sign up online and they
$50.
send you a thing. But come to find out in Utah, you can actually just sign up. You don't have to like you can like go to the county and just like get a license. You don't have to do that. But yeah, I'm like a minister from.
So you signed the marriage certificate, though.
I did.
I love it. Love it.
It's legal. He got it like
we
approved.
got the
We got
paper.
approved. He's actually married.
This is awesome to have a man of the cloth here. Hey, can I just divulge a couple things to you? Like, can we just confessional for a couple minutes?
Let's hear it. I don't know how much I can help you there, but hey, give it your best.
Well, if you can give me one of these and a little bit of water, we're good, man.
Fair enough.
I like it. No, that's cool. There's something about the brotherhood between the two of you, obviously, connection. Is that your blood? But you guys are bros. Like it's different to be bros.
Yeah.
We do everything together, honestly. We work together. We bike together every single day. We haven't really been separated since we were like young.
Yeah, like we've been together forever, like best friends from day one. Like every moment, like my highest highs and lowest lows, like Jackson's been there, and we're comfortable to have critical conversations. We're comfortable to like we want to be better, and it's nice having someone to be like, hey, like please tell me if I'm doing this, so I can learn from that. So yeah, it's not like we are brothers by blood, but we are best friends by choice and live every day together for sure.
That's cool. Yeah. Jaxon, what's your wife's name?
My wife's name's Allie.
Allie. So how did that all go down? You know, I mean, is 3 a crowd?
It depends. CJ,
I apparently have my quirks.
he's a little much sometimes, but she
Allie.
loves him.
We're best friends, but I
It's
think I get on both their nerves. And, you know, sometimes it's fun to just test that a little bit.
Yeah.
He's like a sibling to her now, and they fight and everything like that, but it's good.
Cool.
It's awesome.
Do you have other siblings?
2 older brothers. Yeah, and then 2 sister-in-laws as well.
Wow, cool.
We got 4 boys in the fam. We got 3 sister-in-laws, 3 nieces. Like the girls are starting to outnumber us.
Yeah.
We're losing.
man.
We're starting to lose.
Tell us a little bit more about the bike, because that's the river that runs through all of it. That's where, you know, Brainstoke really connected with you all, is because of this love affair of the bike. So how did it begin for you guys?
Yeah, for me, it was, like I kind of told you a little bit, it was NICA. And then for CJ, he always played soccer. He played college soccer, never really biked. He biked for fun, had an enduro. He was one of those guys. You know?
I was an enduro bro back in the day before I turned to Lycra.
And then once COVID hit, I wanted a new bike. But the only way I could get a new bike is if CJ bought my old bike. That was the whole deal. So I talked CJ into buying my old bike so then I could get a new bike. And then during COVID, we just biked every single day because you couldn't really do anything else. And then once I'll let you go into it.
Yeah, so like you said, I played competitive soccer and like that was my life. I loved to bike. Our parents raised us like cycling and being outdoorsy. But when COVID hit, I had already like signed to play college soccer, but that wasn't going to be until August. So we had like all this time on our hands to go adventure, and like that's really where like I feel like I fell in love with the bike. I got like into that cross country scene. Me and Jaxon would go like car camp and then go ride fun areas together. We'd push each other. We'd go adventure, get lost together. And then I went to play college soccer. So I kind of put that aside for a little bit. And I played college soccer for 2 years, but every time I'd come home in the summer, I'd go straight to the bike. Like I literally wouldn't play soccer and I wouldn't tell anyone. It was just like 3 months of just cycling. And then I'd go back, play soccer. And then eventually I was like, you know what? I've got what I wanted out of soccer. You know, I've traveled, I've done that college thing. And I kind of want to scratch this like cycling itch. So I've only been doing cycling competitively and really, really working hard at it for like the past 3 years or so now. And I think that's brought us closer for sure. Like we've always been close, but when you're sharing those moments on the bike with each other, you kind of go through every high and low. And
Is it competitive between the two of you?
It is in like the moment, but I feel like we both like have an understanding of if you give it your all, then like you take like that pride and you're like rooting for each person. So if he gets a better time, it's like you're stoked for him.
Yeah.
And you like it's a battle between yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah, right.
It's not really what position you get.
Right.
yeah, it's never really gotten between us. But on the like, it's great to train with someone that's so similar to you every day. Like we'll be chatting, and then all of a sudden it goes quiet, and the pace starts to get a little bit heavier, and you kind of just like go until someone stops. Really, so it's good to have someone pushing you there.
Yeah, for
always.
Yeah.
COVID was such an interesting time, for cyclists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people, I to this day, that was like a literal dream for me.
Yeah.
It shut down the world, which there's so much sadness surrounding COVID, depending on where you're at from, around the country. But I never rode so much.
Oh, it was awesome.
It was like this hall pass of like being out. And
You had like nothing else to worry about, really.
You didn't
Yeah.
feel bad if you weren't doing anything because it's like I couldn't do anything, so I'll just go for a 5-hour ride every single day.
yeah, I mean, my youngest son and I basically moved to St. George for a couple months. He was online school, and I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
And I mean, he would do homework in the morning, I would ride, and then we'd play pickleball in the afternoon. And so it was an interesting time to just be able to have that freedom to be out there and to be riding and doing those things outside, which is, super cool. When did the bike morph from, this is something we love to do, pushing each other on the bike, to this whole initiative of Bikes Change Lives? When did that begin, and how did that brainchild come into play?
Yeah, it was really like natural progression, but we started competing a lot like in 2021, and kind of like doing that same thing that everyone does, right? Like finding like the crew to ride with and finding like these little sponsors and stuff like that, like anything you could get, right? Some free handouts. And then 2022 or 2023, we created our first custom kit. And on the back of that, right before we printed it, I was like, I really want something like a butt patch type thing. And I was like, Bikes Change Lives. Like, it's just kind of in my head. I throw it on the butt patch. So we raced on those kits for a year, and we're like, we really like standing out, and there's something to this like Bikes Change Lives thing. So we're like, why would we ride for someone else when we can just ride for ourselves and create like an actual movement and choose what we want to ride for rather than like having to ride for someone else. So we're like, yeah, let's just go all in on Bikes Change Lives. Like me, you, our other brother, and then like some friends. I was like, let's start creating our own kits. And like, I've always been passionate about like mental health and always been passionate about cycling. So it was like the natural progression to combine the two and see if we can make a difference. So that really, it's been alive for a year, just over a year now. I started it like when we went to Leadville in 2023, I started like the Instagram and everything. And it's just kind of been a slow growth. Obviously, like we've been in college and have like our busy lives outside of it, but it's just been something we continue to push content on and try to inspire others to go outside and do uncomfortable things. But yeah, it was really a natural progression from competing to let's ride for something bigger than ourselves and trying to inspire and help some people while we do so.
You mentioned that it was a passion project. I think you said that before we started recording. What's the vision to go beyond a passion project or to leave it there? What do you say, Jaxon?
I would say, I think our big goal would just be able to create a community around cycling post NICA, like getting parents that have some free time that can help get kids off their phones after school, create a little community through cycling where we can have bikes if they aren't fortunate enough to have their own bikes, where they can go after school, ride around, have like that parent if they need some coaching, and then really progress their skills, whatever that looks like, through mental health, if they want to get better at cycling, just have an outlet rather than social media.
Yeah.
Would you add anything to that?
No, it's great. I think at the end of the day is like there's something missing between like Nike is great and it absolutely serves a purpose. And there are these other little clubs going on throughout the year for the very, very competitive ones. But what about the people that are like very new to cycling that really just are in Nike for the social aspect? They like to compete, but it's not necessarily the only reason they're out there. So yeah, to provide that next step or an additional supplemental resource there where it is more of a well-rounded balance of cycling skills, cycling competition, mental health stuff, and life coaching. Like, let's create these, like at the end of the day, can we create better humans that are going to lead better lives, not just competitive cyclists?
CJ, what was it? You mentioned a couple things there prior, just describing yourself about biking, but you also said passionate about mental health. Why? Why the mental health component?
Yeah, it's really interesting because obviously, like going throughout high school, competitive soccer player, I played at a really high level. And in my younger, like early high school days, I don't think I was in tune with myself as much. I felt like I fell into just like that typical high school successful athlete. But as I started to like, I'd say turn myself into a leader on a very great program, both in club and high school, I started to notice some intricacies about myself and about leading like unique individuals. And that's kind of where I started to fall in love with this idea of like mental performance, mental endurance, that kind of stuff. And when I originally went into college, I really wanted to study psychology. That really interests me. But as I learned more about the space, I didn't love the idea of like a clinical setting, but more so like, how can I either lead better people, like lead a better life in corporate space, or outside of that, whatever that looks like. But I really started to, like when I went off to college, notice, like it was the first time in my life where I had to like be alone and choose myself. And I believe like we all have like insecurities and things that make us quirky and weird. And it's hard. Like it's hard in high school. It's hard in college when you're alone and you're kind of trying to like date and do other things. But I just noticed like the more I put into mental health and the more I put into like myself, I started to see like gains in other areas of my life. Mental health isn't something you just do and achieve. It's something you work for and have to be very intentional about every single day. So ever since then, as I started to learn myself more, I've just tried to, use social media as a platform and my bike as a platform to maybe help one other person see myself be vulnerable and that, it's not unique to them, what they're going through, I guess.
Can we double click on that?
Yeah.
On the fact of becoming more vulnerable, more in tune, and you said you saw gains in other parts of your life. Tell us more about those gains.
Yeah. Being vulnerable has been kind of like a saying in my head recently, I think, that's come about. And as I look back, vulnerability has, these gains are in athletics, in business, and most importantly, I think in relationships. When we are vulnerable and break down that barrier with friends, family, and loved ones, it opens a space for conversation between you two, or the group. And my relationships have become a lot more valuable. And because I've been vulnerable, I've seen other people break down their barriers with me. And there's been a lot of areas for me to maybe offer just a little bit of support, or at times some tips or tricks if needed. But yeah, these gains have become like really into my personal life, and I believe relationships are like the best thing to come about from that.
Yeah, right on.
I think it honestly I think CJ's vulnerability really stemmed from soccer. When you saw CJ on the soccer field, he was he wore his heart on his sleeve. Like if he lost his game, he would drop to his knees, like crying. And you don't usually see that, like all that emotion. Yeah, he like wanted to win. He wasn't really mad. He just had so much love for the game of soccer. And he just felt bad for like the whole team in a sense, where they worked so hard and he showed that. He didn't hold it in and keep it like, oh yeah, like we did okay. Like he really like showed that on the field always.
Where did you play?
I played at Pleasant Grove High School, and then I played, my club was Rangers out of Orem. And then I went and played 2 years at Utah State Eastern.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. You talked about leading or being on a team and working with, other athletes and being in that setting. Did that also have a factor in, your desire to want to focus on or share mental health? Were you seeing other challenges that others were facing or that you were leading in those programs?
Yeah, for sure. I was like a captain or leader, whatever you want to call it, on my club and high school teams. And especially when I went to college, you're right, college, you kind of bring in all these egos and individuals that were very, very good on club or high school level. And you have to like put that together into a team and somehow make that work. Like we all were the best somewhere. So when I realized that in college, like I was able to be like integrate myself as a leader very early on. And I've always felt like I had a unique ability to connect with like everyone, no matter what background they come from or what they're interested in. I feel like I can really get down to like see them eye to eye and see what they're all about. So as I went into that college experience and those egos kind of came together, like at that time, performance was like our goal. Like to perform on the soccer field was our goal. And how can I offer my assistance or offer my leadership to bring us all together and work together to win that? Because as much as like in teams or in organizations, I believe like culture's that forefront of everything, and culture wins games, culture wins championships. So that mental performance, mental health side of things just like immediately shown through to be like the first place to go.
Totally impressed with what you're cueing into there. I mean, at your age to cue into that mental health is tied to culture in an organization. That's incredibly intuitive. That you got there. What were you seeing something in train wrecks or challenges in the team where maybe the culture was off and so you weren't performing on the field?
Absolutely. Like very in high school and in college. In high school especially, like we won state in high school. It was my sophomore year, and throughout that year, it was like the messiest year I've ever been a part of. We had like multiple of our best players quit, come back. And it was very beginning of the season. Like we were losing games. We were a great team, great players. Like on paper, we were going to win, but like people were quitting and people had these egos, but then they came back and were forced to like I remember strict conversations in our like clubhouse of people crying, apologizing, and just like really breaking themselves down to ground zero. And the second like that happened, everyone was just in tune, and it was like go time from there. We weren't necessarily like the best team that year, but we had an extremely strong culture that won us a championship. In college, the same thing happened. I vividly have a memory of two players fighting in a room, in the dorm room, and I was there mediating this. Like, I don't even know how I got myself in this situation, but it was extremely valuable to be there and guide that. And then sometimes it's needed to have that fight is like vulnerability in a way.
Yeah.
Because it gets everything off the table and then you can become closer following that.
You even had a conversation with the coach
Yeah.
itself, I'm pretty sure, in college.
In college we did, like the team came to me and my friend as captains, and we had to go approach the coach with like things that we were unhappy about. And that was probably like one of the hardest conversations I've had, like in my more professional life, I'd say. Like going to someone in power over my playing position, over my time, and telling them like the team is not happy with how you're performing and how can we learn from that. But in the end, it like just drove me closer to my teammates, and to all of us came together even more.
There's so much here. And I say that because this is where the crossroad, or maybe the likeness of cycling, of sport, transitions into business life or relationships or a young marriage, right?
Yeah.
Can you lean into struggle to find the stoke? You know, are you willing to do that? And so many people in business, in marriage, in relationships, in parenting, they don't want to go there. They don't want conflict, you know? They'll be out on the bike, and as soon as they're away from everybody else and it gets hard, they'll let off the gas. Like they'll talk themselves out of the struggle, right?
Yeah,
That's just
absolutely.
human nature. People don't want to do that. The fact that you went to a coach and was like, hey, the team isn't happy with your performance.
Yeah, it was hard.
I remember there was a lot of conversations leading up to the conversation. Like,
Yeah, a lot of team meetings away from that eventually brought us to.
That says so much
there.
though about you, you know, and this whole concept of which, you know, our last guest who was here a while ago, we talked about interpersonal risk. Are you willing to take the personal risk, put yourself out there, not necessarily knowing how that's going to go? So how did the coach respond to that?
You know, I honestly wish it would have been better. The way some of his initial tendencies were to defend himself, which I get for sure. When you have like a room of 35 individuals coming at you, that's obviously not the easiest way to go about it.
Yeah.
So I probably could have approached it even better, just made it more, you know, one-on-one. But I think showing the team that like we were as like leaders able to go and like stand up for them and have a voice for all of us brought, at the end of it was like, no matter what the decision was, like we were on the same page and we're the ones on the field. So that's all that mattered, honestly. And we became like a very good team after that. The culture was extremely good from every single person, even with the differences in playing time, differences in attitudes. Like it definitely brought us closer together and made us a better like team overall.
Yeah. That's so cool. I mean, what a great lesson to learn that conflict and leaning into that became the thing that gelled the team.
For sure.
I mean, it sounds like in high school, and were you successful after that in college?
Yeah,
That was.
We were eventually ranked up in the top 20 in the nation for like JUCO Division I is what that would be classified as. Didn't make it all the way to nationals, but like it was one of the highest like rankings that school's ever had. So successful year nonetheless.
Yeah. So I got to go further on to this because I'm intrigued to know. How was it determined that you, as a team, decided we're going to go approach a coach?
Yeah, so
I mean, you're like, CJ, you do it. You got the best hair. You do it.
it's kind of weird how it all came about. Honestly, like my whole like becoming a captain in college was really weird how it came about. Like I said earlier, I have like this ability to see everyone eye to eye and like get into deep conversations really quickly. So halfway through like my freshman year of college, there'd be two captains and then there's a rotating captain. So like every week, like whoever's performed well or has been a leader gets to be like that third captain. But I was chosen like week 4 and then I just became like the third captain. Like no, we never did another like round of switching. So then like my sophomore year, which when this conflict happened, I was like captain, and every week we'd have team meetings, just so no coaches there, just kind of like get away from the field and have like an intimate team meeting. And week after week, it kind of just started to build. People were frustrated out at practice. People were frustrated on the field. And it kind of came to like that point where everyone was unhappy, but too afraid to say something. And so me and my buddy as captains were like the ones to lean on, and they were encouraging it. Like I owe it to them for pushing me a little bit and like, no, you say it. But it needed to happen. So I felt like no matter what happened, I'd rather stand up for the team than even if I lost like playing time or anything like that. But yeah, it was definitely a few weeks of conversations and upset to actually finally approach him.
It's cool. I mean, I think through so many teams who they may never get to that spot where they feel like they would be, brave enough or have the courage to be able to do that, and to have that tough conversation. So yeah, that's amazing. I'm trying to picture that. Like no coaches there, a bunch of teens in a locker room.
It was in a dorm room. We had 35 individuals like in my six person dorm room.
It was serious then.
Oh,
Something
yeah.
had to change.
I could see it in my head. Like everyone's funneled into the family room, like shoulder to shoulder, wall to wall, like having this conversation. I was taking notes on my phone, what they wanted to say to him through me.
And was this at Utah Tech?
Utah State.
The Utah State East. Okay.
Yeah, I transferred after my sophomore year to Utah Tech.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, kudos to you.
Appreciate it.
And there's something right in that, like these lessons of, learning how to lean into that uncomfortable stuff at a young age and to do those things. So, yeah. What advice, Jaxon, are you taking from that? Just young married guy, like lean into conflict, man.
Absolutely. CJ shared that many times, and it's definitely helped in like my relationship with him and with my wife, because if you can't have those difficult conversations, then it's not going to work out very well. And then I think like CJ during college, I would always go down and stay with him because we were so close, and not having him was difficult. And I think what I've taken from CJ in cycling would be when I would race, I always saw the person that would win and then wouldn't talk to people. And I didn't like that when they would win a race and they felt like they were higher than everyone. So when I was successful in biking, I wanted to be the person that you'd win and you would just like, you weren't above anyone else. Like you had a good race and that was it. You're not better than them. You aren't like, you can be friends with them still and just have an open conversation and don't be higher in any level.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great lesson to learn and take away. So pivot a little bit. I'm intrigued to know, like, where did it go from riding bikes together and taking on this, broader initiative of Bikes Change Lives? I mean, you said it just kind of, you created kits,
Yeah.
but then it took on this different life. And so tell us a little bit more about that and what's happening and where's it going?
Yeah, right now is the kits have been like our outlet to kind of express ourselves in a way. A lot of people, they have the black and white kits, and then you kind of have an exclusive club. You can buy into it, you can get their coaching, and then you can ride with them. And we didn't want to be that. And we kind of put that from the start, is we had a team like that first. And we're like, this isn't us in a sense. So we created our first kit, which is blue and white. And we're like, a lot of people don't like white because biking and gets dirty and stuff. So that was our little step outside the realm.
Oh, I love it.
And then with our Leadville kit, we wanted to stand out and be as much color as possible. We saw this specialized Epic World Cup bike that has all the colors, and we're like, let's do a kit exactly like that and not tone it down at all. If anything, make it more colorful.
Yeah, and this is it for these are the colors.
Yeah.
I mean, on the biggest stage, right? Like Leadville is such an iconic race. It was like so perfect. And this year, just in general, has just been a whirlwind, especially this summer for me and Jaxon. But leading up to it was like, on the biggest stage, amongst like everything that's gone on, let's stand out and make sure people see us. Like, there's no doubt everyone saw us. And we got a lot of comments. And that's just like who we are as an organization. What Bikes Change Lives is it's a community centered around like breaking down the barriers of mental health using bikes, like being uncomfortable, like going out and doing your hard, whatever that looks like, whether it's 1 mile, whether that's running, whatever hard is for you, like we challenge you to go out and try that and then push past that. And when you come back and reflect, you realize you're a stronger person mentally, physically, spiritually, like just how Brain Stout goes about it, right? Like getting those, like doing hard things will change your life, and it'll change who you are as a brother, sister, parent.
Yeah.
Everything.
I love the kits. I mean, I bought one. I wore it. You know, my debut was a couple days ago, and we have a ride up here that it's kind of our, you know, for me as a mountain biker, it's a litmus test of like determining where's my fitness at. And I'm like, I'm gonna go hard today on the Rooster. So the Rooster is what it's called.
Okay.
And I put on my loud kit and I went after it.
Yeah.
And I PR'd.
Let's go.
And it's the kits, you know, it's the
kit
kits
that
power.
It makes you feel fast.
It is totally. I love it. I freaking love this idea of live loud. I think there's something to that about just owning who you are and living that and doing it. I'm a fan of the kits. So I think it's awesome.
I appreciate that.
But you talked about, I'm intrigued to know, because Leadville takes on this broader story. So what did happen this summer?
Yeah.
And what was the story behind the story? Because there was a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, when we talk about struggle and stoke,
Dang near
I
died.
mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's been weird. It's been a unique year, and it's tested me in ways I've never been tested before. And I'm still dealing with like a lot of that, I think, but it's made me grow a ton and see like things a lot differently. But yeah, like we had big goals this year, and like we were intentional about these big goals. Like we wrote them down, and we were working towards like really like doing well, like scratching that competitive itch. So when, you know, you're training for this summer that's supposed to be like so intriguing. Like I had three events. I had Silver Rush, Crusher, and Leadville. Like those are my three I wanted to do well at this year, and both of us. And we were just kind of hitting all the marks. Like everything was checking out. I came into the summer like the fittest I've ever been, and I was just like, we were stoked. Like we were feeling really good. Going into the end of June, I was up at a family reunion, and I was just finishing a training block. So of course I had my bike up in Idaho, and I saw this really cool ride I wanted to do. It was like this big old tower up on this mountain up by Island Park, Idaho. And so I went out one morning, and on June 22nd, went out and did this ride. It crushed it. Got second on this like hour segment. Like I was super happy about it.
You Snapchat me at the top.
I Snapchat everyone at the top. I could see the Tetons out, and
Is this Sawtell?
yes,
Okay. Yep.
incredible. If you know where it's at, it's incredible.
Yep.
You can see everything. And, you know, funny enough, like it's a pretty like it's a pretty slick dirt road to be going down on a gravel. Descend it fine, you know, cruising back home, 10 minutes from the campsite. And then I don't remember anything. Like I remember going down this beautiful dirt road, and next thing I know, I'm like waking up to people above me. But based off like my cycling computer, I was going 25 miles an hour and ended up going straight to my head, right to my helmet. I was knocked out for what we think is 20 minutes. I was alone and found by some people on the road, just in side-by-sides. And that's where like everything turned upside down for me. Like from feeling just incredible on the bike, just ready to, I was going to hit my recovery week and then go right into my biggest events of the year. Like it was perfect, to being unconscious. If I didn't have my helmet on, like I would have likely wouldn't be here today. Saved by my helmet. I remember waking up, seeing throw up all over the ground. And then I remember like, I don't really, like it was pretty off and on, but I remember like being in the car, my dad yelling at me to stay awake. And then I remember being in an ambulance, and then like, just like in the hospital getting stitches. So it wasn't like knocked down, get a concussion, you know, ride home. It was like knocked down, knocked out, completely lights out, couldn't function. End up getting care at the hospital. Luckily, like everything's fine with my head. Like I have a broken collarbone, severe concussion, and luckily no brain bleed or anything like that. But that's where everything, like this new journey started, like new goals appeared. I couldn't walk by myself, couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. And like I needed help, like for basic care. I couldn't walk, couldn't do any of that. So here I am, like 7 weeks from Leadville. It doesn't like,
Yeah.
7 weeks from Leadville, and crazy enough to think that I could be at Leadville. But to continue on, 7 weeks also, like we saw very great doctors, and a lot of people were like, 4 months till you should be back on the bike, you know, just to get everything right. But I'm one to like, I'm a glass half full, very optimistic. And I was like, why would we make the decision now? Like Leadville's in 7 weeks. Let's make the decision right before it. So then I set off on this like journey of like eventually getting to like taking it very slow at the beginning, going, you know, to therapy like 4 to 6 hours a day, and eventually starting to walk again, starting to do some workouts, starting to get my balance back. Got on the bike like 3 weeks for the first time, went up and down my road. It was scary.
That's terrifying. This guy barely could even turn around in a circle.
Yeah, so we're 3 weeks out.
That's
and
amazing.
my balance, the biggest issue is my balance. Like I have a vestibular injury that is essentially the nerves that go to your eyes, brain, and ear are damaged. So instead of your eyes acting like a gyroscope, now what I tell people is like, close your eyes and you're on a roller coaster. Your head feels 100 pounds. So that's what I was dealing with initially. And going to a lot of therapy to work on that. And eventually I start to ride some trails, and like baby trails, like the easiest trails, as slow as you could possibly imagine. I looked ridiculous. But I got to the point, it was the Monday before we left for Leadville, where Monday. Jaxon came and rode with me, and I got to the point where I was like, okay, it's safe. I know I can go as slow as I want and be safe. And I've been to Leadville before. I know what it entails, and I can do it. So I went to the doctor and got cleared Tuesday before Leadville to go line up at Leadville. And the goal was to just line up, and that's the win. Like all along, line up, and that would be a win.
To be fair, his doctor does race or ride the Red Bull Rampage Trail, so I don't know if it was really a good doctor to be given clearance, but hey.
It's exactly where you wanted to go.
So there's a pretty great picture of you coming across the finish line,
Yeah.
right? So tell us about the day.
Yeah, like I said, the goal at Leadville was to just get there. Like Leadville's, like the race is awesome. It's a very cool experience, but for me, I'm just like an experienced guy. Like I'm all about the drive there, the community there, being out on course together. Like the race is awesome, but the experience is everything to me. So I was just like, I had already won. Like being in Leadville was the goal. Like I got there, we made it. So lining up was just like the cherry on top. And I kind of came in with no expectations. Like I had to humble myself and be okay with like going down the road 10 minutes and saying like, no, like I can't do this. Cause at the time, like I couldn't look behind me. Is just like everything I can do to stay looking forward. And anytime like rocks and my head starts moving, it got a little bit funky. So it was just like a mile at a time, which is, you know, the best way to go about it. First, like 15, like got to the dirt out front of my group just to kind of stay safe, and then settled in. I was fine on the climbs. Like I still had some fitness because I was riding the trainer a little bit. And then the downhills just get dropped by everyone. I ended up getting to power line in like a very good time, like kind of surprising myself. I think I got there faster than I'd ever gotten there.
Yeah, I was coming down Columbine, and I was like, holy cow, CJ's freaking hauling still. Like he's got a great time.
So I was ahead of schedule, but I knew like power line would be very challenging, and that's where you could throw away your entire day. It's like I just stayed in my lane, went really slow, probably got passed by like 30 or more people, and just kind of like humbled myself to just do my thing one step at a time. Got to Columbine, and that's kind of where the lights started to flicker a little. But I'd been really excited. Like it's finally on my bike again, and I just loved it. And so I climbed Columbine, and my stomach hurt so bad. Like I had not been training enough to ride how I was riding or eat anything near what I needed to. And
But he's trying to take 120 cars per hour without training.
I was like way out of that. So I was choking down throw up. And at this point I'm like, all right, I can't eat anymore. I'm going to throw up, and I'd rather not eat than throw up. So Jaxon passes me. I'm doing pretty well. and that's kind of where it started to get like scary for me. Cause like you're 4 hours in at this point, and Columbine, the top of Columbine's it's a rough 5 minutes or so. And then the bottom is just like a windy dirt road. And so I got down the top safely and felt all right, just went really slow. But then it was like in that middle section, just windy dirt road, like, traditional dirt road. And I kind of just felt like my hands were slipping off. I'm already over gripping as hard as I can because I'm scared. I have my hands feel like they're just falling off. And in my head, I just like see these flashes of me just like hitting my head. Like that's all I think. So it was just very like scary, and like was leaning into, I started to like deal with like this summer in a way that I've never dealt with like something like that before. Like this flashback of me basically just hitting my head and like going back to zero.
Yeah.
But eventually make it down, still feeling awful stomach wise. I'm going up, I make it across the flats back to power line, and I'm like feeling terrible at this point, but I'm like on a good time. The goal was to get there, and now I'm on pace to get under 9, but I'm going back quick, and I'm like, I don't even know if 9 might be out of picture. I like have a vivid memory of me walking my bike up power line. I've never walked at Leadville, and it was terrible. Pushing my bike up power line. I'm drinking a Red Bull, and I'm like, I'm either going to throw up or feel a lot better after this. Luckily, I get on my bike again, easiest gear, and just like slowly pedal. And eventually I do start feeling pretty good, a lot better than I was. Get to the last aid station, and it's about 50 minutes home from there. And I knew I was going to make it back under 9. And at that point, it was like, all right, I can relax a little bit. Ended up coming across 8:25, which is like a lot. Like I wanted to get there in under 12, right? Like the goal in the beginning of the year was obviously to do better, but I was super happy with where I was. And that's kind of when the emotions hit, like going up the boulevard, like this whole year really just of like being at your best and then going back to zero, and then being in what I think is one of the greatest cycling communities in the world at Leadville, and like coming across and just like proving to yourself that like I did what a lot deemed impossible. Just massive win, massive emotions. Incredible day.
Came across the finish line, just dropped to the bars, just completely bawling, which was really cool because I was able to stay inside the corral and give him his finisher medal with like Marilee right next to me. You guys know Marilee, she's one of the founders of Leadville, but it's really cool to see CJ just like come across that finish line. And Ken and Marilee knew the story, so they were like right there sharing that emotion, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. All right, we got to go back, man.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
intrigued
Sorry,
to
that
know.
was a long story.
It's
I
not
didn't
long.
know if to keep
It's
going
great.
or not.
There had to have been a time, right? I mean, you mentioned that why make the decision now? Let's wait until we get closer to then. Were there moments in that 7 weeks-ish where you're just like, this isn't, I mean, there's a point where it's like, this is my goal. And then there's another point where, I mean, we right across the street here. I mean, one of our closest friends has had multiple head injuries. One of them, we all thought this is maybe the end of his life as a human who can function.
Yeah.
He crashed in Lotaja a couple of years ago and was life flighted. And so, yeah, I mean, was there a point in those 7 weeks where you're like, hey, I'm pushing for something, and my spidey sense is saying you mentioned several times like humble myself or check my ego.
Yeah. There's definitely, I mean, from the outside, it's a really cool story, right? And I tried to share as much as I could on Instagram, but obviously, as much as you try and be vulnerable and share the hard times, like there's a lot more that went into this behind the scenes. And being at home, like on the couch, not able to drive for like 6 weeks, comes with like a lot of just challenges, I guess. Like when you're a competitive athlete, right? Like the thing I struggle with most is like sitting on the couch, like, oh, I should be doing something. Like I need to be out doing something. I need to be better. But eventually I was able to turn that into like recovery is training. Like every day, just recovery. So, but there's so many moments where it's like, I am a glass half full optimistic guy, but obviously like those thoughts are creeping in of like this, I can't even walk by myself. I'm not safe enough to be on a bike. Like, I can barely open my eyes for a week. Just really at a really low point in my life. But I think finding a routine kind of got me out of that. And like, first off, actually, the thing that sticks out most to me, and it is so important in my life and something I've learned, is I'm a big like journaler and try and be intentional about like the thoughts I'm having. So I reflect on my journal and just the amount of times that it's noted, like reach out to those in need, like I was. Be intentional about like the people around you and who you surrounded you with. Because I was like, so many people met, so many messages, so many people coming over to the house and just visiting with me. And it just showed like how much I was loved and how many people cared about me, and reminded me that when I'm in this, when someone else is in this position, I need to be that person to reach out. And it's a good reminder in a way. So looking back, like the people who I've surrounded myself with are incredible humans. And because of them, I was able to like be optimistic still and keep going forward. But getting into that routine was everything. Is just like I go to therapy every morning, go to physical therapy. Then I do an hour in a hyperbaric chamber with red light therapy. And then I'd go home and do my exercises. So it was like 4 to 6 hours of therapy a day. And like, that was just what I did. Like, it got me out of like that funk of being in your head and thinking negative thoughts to all I have to do is just wake up tomorrow and go to therapy and just be a little bit better tomorrow.
What was the role of family in this recovery process?
Yeah, everything. Like I've talked about this with my parents a lot. Is like, it kind of was the best time for it to happen because I'd been at Utah Tech in college for, I've been in college for the past 4 years, and I just recently moved home. And I was like at my lowest point of like Jaxon or my parents having to pull down my pants and help me go to the restroom. And then, shower me off when I got home and help me do my hair and help me lay back down on the couch and call for help when I needed to go to the bathroom again. So like my parents and my family around me is just extremely like important, and they just dropped everything for me. Like right away, my dad got me into the best doctors out there, did everything he could to research, where I needed to go next. And my mom was there with me like every step of the way, every day, sitting there. We watched TV together till like 1 a.m. And, like I was sitting on the couch, she's sitting there, and it was like for them to drop everything. Like I've been blessed with very great family members.
CJ, what was the first step? Just for, I'm always surprised at people who listen in. We're like, I'm so glad you said this or that, on certain topics. If someone had a major, head injury, where would you start? Where would be the place to begin that journey?
Yeah. So I feel like there's a lot of information out there around concussions, but also a ton of unknowns. It's a very recent, like the study of concussions is super recent, and we still don't know everything. But I'm that type of guy that kind of like goes down the black hole of just like finding every bit of information I can when I'm dealing with something.
Yeah.
So like for me now, recognizing the importance of like, I think a lot of people have the idea of like go in a black room and don't talk to anyone and recover from head injuries. And I personally think that's not the way to go about it. Obviously like staying off screens is important right away, but being a human around people again. So like being social and having conversations with people, whatever that looks like. For me, I was laying on the couch, my ears were bothering me really, but I had conversations with people, and I had a lot like people around me. So I was social still, which was important for me to stay out of like negative thoughts that you can deal with concussions. And just kind of keep your brain, like you're working it out essentially at the very, very basic minimum. And then second is actually cycling. So as soon as you can like get yourself onto a stationary bike, just sit there and pedal without getting your heart rate too high. You don't want to like start pumping blood too quick, but just pedal, because that's going to open up a lot of pathways in your mind and your brain to start that healing process. So for me, it was being social, getting on the bike really, really, really easily for 20 minutes a day. And then I saw a really great benefit out of hyperbaric therapy. That's like you go into a chamber, it's pressurized to like if you're 15 feet underwater, and then you have oxygen in there. So essentially it's supposed to put oxygen into your body, organs, mitochondria, and help healing. It helped my road rash a ton. And from when I started hyperbaric chamber to a week later, I was like walking by myself again. So
I was surprised. I mean, following that piece in particular, I was surprised when you were posting outside of a hyperbaric. I'm like, wow, you know, for someone with a head injury in my head, that's more pressure.
yeah,
Right?
I was super scared the first time I went in there.
I bet. When I was like, he's doing what?
Yeah.
But it was great for me to listen to. I mean, because you did that, not my story, but I crashed at P2P this year and not head, but I had other injuries and I ended up going in. And hyperbaric, I was like, wow.
It's crazy.
Cryotherapy and hyperbaric really helped me too.
Yeah.
So anyway, continue. But I was surprised that the hyperbaric thing was a step.
Yeah, it's there's not a ton of like research backed yet stuff on it, but I don't think it's something you could go into one time, go home and you're like, oh, I'm fixed.
Yeah.
But like I did 40 days of this, 40 days straight of 1 hour in there and then 15 minutes in red light therapy. But it was like, first of all, my road rash was like healing like crazy. Within a week, like the scabs would just like pop off and it was like baby skin again. Come to find out, what I've heard is they put burn victims in those at the hospitals to speed up healing. But yeah, it was, for me, it worked really well. Obviously it's hard because I was doing so much. You can't attribute it to one thing, but the combination of physical therapy, riding the bike, vestibular therapy, and then going to this recovery spa was like this, like I was seeing exponential growth. It was crazy. Like every time I go to the doctor, they're like, whoa, like, how are you walking? How are you functioning like this? Like your eyes are starting to track again. Because at the beginning it was like very, like baby steps to 7 weeks later, I'm riding a bike across 105 miles. Like how? But
Do you remember the first time you got in the sun and sweat went down your face after the accident?
yes, it's probably like 5 days after.
Okay.
Well, I was like deliberately in the sun. It was like a few days after because my mom put me outside in like a rocking chair.
Okay. Good for your mom.
And I was like in like my shorts, just laying there and just like tanning and sweating and getting some sun therapy.
That had to feel pretty good. Then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was, I don't know exactly how many days it was, but like I was by windows where I was sitting and sleeping. But I got outside pretty like, and then from there it was like every day.
Pretty consistent.
Yeah. Like at least laying in the sun. And then I'd go for a walk around the block with like a cane that slowly eventually became
Cool.
myself.
3 weeks later, you went for a walk.
Felt like the next day.
All the steps were way slow because like when you have to drive him everywhere and then pull down his pants to walk, like he wasn't walking for a good week and a half. He was sleeping on the couch upstairs because he couldn't walk down the stairs for a week and a half. Like he was pretty rough. Like he basically only looked good for 4 weeks before Leadville.
So Jaxon, I got something for you. So you shared how you two were two peas in a pod, never left each other's side up for forever, as long as you can remember, right? So now all of a sudden your best buddy, your bro, your training partner is now on the couch, and you're loaded or not loaded, but Leadville is still a goal for you.
Yeah.
How did the dynamic of training alone?
Yeah.
What did that do to your headspace? And I've got to think there were some thoughts worrying about CJ as you're riding your bike. You're thinking through some of these things. Leadville, crap, is this going to happen? I don't know. I can see there's a lot of things that might be going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
What can you share?
I think the biggest thing was the week CJ got back is when we were heading to Leadville Silver Rush 50. And that was like our first test in a sense. And going at that elevation, my dad made the decision that CJ wasn't going to come because he wouldn't have his therapy, and then he wouldn't have the oxygen with it being so high in elevation.
Right.
So I think that was really difficult to pack up all your bike stuff when you had all these goals you've been training in St. George that whole year to go do that race. And then you pack up and leave your brother that's hurt on the couch. That was like the main difficult thing. Like you're sitting in the car for 6 hours where we had these big goals to go out. The main goal at Silverbush was to go out and win. And having that goal and just leaving him was super difficult, but it made me motivated to kind of prove to him and show him that we still he could kind of like live through me, and I wanted to like show him in a sense. So I try to share as many videos as possible. And then after getting home from Leadville, it was super difficult because Crusher got canceled because of the smoke.
Yeah.
And then it was 5 weeks of training. When those are super crucial 5 weeks of training before your biggest event of the year. Like that was the A race.
Yep.
And the first like 2 weeks were super difficult to have the motivation to go out and ride. But it was like, I knew I needed to do it. But when you go out for these 2-hour rides and your friend's not there and you've had them in the conversation when you're riding every single day, it was super difficult to get out and still ride. And it was scary every single time you go on a downhill. It's like, I could be him.
Yeah.
That's like every time we go on a bike, you could crash, and that's the risk you take. So going out and just keeping that motivation, and CJ was really good in like still pushing me to go do it, because I would have a lack of motivation. I wouldn't want to go out and ride because we were working together. So I'd like go work, and then I would just want to kind of just like chill with him and hang out and help him. So having him to push me to still go out and train, and then I could show him my pictures and kind of still talk about it with him.
Can you speak to suffering with somebody else versus suffering alone?
Yeah, that's been I think that's like our superpower, is having someone to suffer with. Is you start to hurt and you want to stop, because suffering, like being comfortable is what the human nature is, right? We want to be in a comfortable situation, and then having someone to push a little bit more, where it's like you're hurting and then they like go a little bit harder, and it's like, really don't want to do this right now. I'd really like just try to pull off the gas. I think we both have that sense of we want to be like better, and we want to like don't want to look bad to the other person. So we'll get to the top of like AF Canyon after a big climb, and it's like, why were you going so hard? It's like, well, you were going so hard.
I thought you wanted to go that hard.
Yeah.
You started it.
It's like, no, you were pushing. It's like, no, you started pushing. So we'd have like those big, we don't even know why we're pushing, but we just don't want to like hinder the other person.
Yeah.
There's something there. We talk about this all the time about, the joint suffer and that it binds you together. And, it's real.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something to that about the ability to suffer at a higher level with someone, it's a training buddy or someone that you care for. So plus, there's also just like, KOMs. I mean,
right.
There's that.
Yeah. We'll go out for 5-hour rides and we talk for maybe an hour of it. And that's like, we both suffer together and we go through like the same experience. And I think having that experience together is what brings us closer, but it's not like we have to go and like talk the whole day. We just like have that mutual respect of like, oh, we're just going to like go for a ride and we're just riding next to each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
Definitely powerful. And it was like he said, when they went to Leadville, it was probably the hardest part for me. It was like the first time I had to miss out on something and seeing them like, cause that had like been the goal for so long. So yeah, but Jaxon had an incredible summer and continued to push himself and achieved his goals at Leadville, which is cool.
It was way cool to be able to see CJ when I'm coming down. And then that just like gives you like a boost of motivation.
Yeah.
When we've been working so hard, he's doing good. So it gives me more motivation. And then just wanting to be there at the finish
Yeah,
and
that's
share
awesome.
that with him was really cool.
Do you think that the accident did something indirectly, but I mean, obviously it did something to you physically, but did it change the meaning for you, Jaxon, in particular? Just, I mean, you mentioned that a little bit, but I'm just even kind of watching and hearing this, and I'm like, maybe this accident thing was like this higher thing of, you know,
I think
taking this to a different level. I mean, 825 with a head injury.
yeah.
I mean, there's just that where it's just kind of like, are you freaking serious? 7 weeks before? I mean, what you've described is this incredible leaning into. I mean, most other people would frankly just be like, I'm out. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to ride bike for a year, let alone 7 weeks and go to 40 sessions of like whatever. It is. You know what I mean?
Don't miss, baby. Don't miss.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a loaded question there about just this deeper meaning, but talk about the background a little bit of these other characters in the story. Like even your parents were like, hey, we're going to get you back. We're going to get you to the start line.
Yeah.
There's not many parents, frankly, who would do it. They just
I
be
feel
like,
like they told
hey,
me-
pump the brakes, CJ.
Oh,
Like,
I feel like they
would-
told me, they hyped me up, but I low-key felt like they were talking behind the scenes
Oh,
bad
yeah.
on me. Like,
Oh yeah.
I kind of caught on to like, everyone was like, yeah, good job, buddy. And then and they're like, nah, he ain't doing it.
I was the only one still pushing for CJ to race Leadville. Everyone
Were you?
was like, behind the scenes, everyone was like, it's not safe. It's stupid. Like, they wanted to keep his like morale high, but like the week he got back, when my dad was like, okay, Crusher and Silver Rush, you're not even thinking about going. Like, don't even think about it. And it got, when he was still not walking for like a week and a half, my dad and mom like talking in the kitchen when CJ was asleep. It's like, he's not going. Like, he's not going to race Leadville.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's going to race Leadville. He's like, if he goes 10 miles down the road, I don't care. He's racing Leadville. So it was a deeper meeting in the sense, like, I think it really brought a more meaning to Bikes Change Lives too, with having a more personal experience, even through CJ of that was like, I think bikes were the only reason that gave him the push to get better.
Yeah.
Because it would be easy to go sit on the couch, feel sorry for yourself. But having that drive to push for something, it was the bike. And it was really cool to grow on that.
Yeah. It validates your whole mission.
Yeah.
Your whole project, you know, which I think is indirectly really pretty neat.
It was
Yeah.
a blessing in disguise.
Totally.
Like the first time I was able to get on my bike, like I called Jaxon and was like, I think I'm ready to get on a bike again. And it was like this moment of, I think it was like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And I like finally got on the bike, and it was literally up and down the road, but it was like this moment of like freedom again. Like the bike is like this tool that we can use to go out and like explore and like that for me is like a therapy tool, you know, of like who I am. And then I vividly remember like thinking, there's like this like 5-minute loop at our local trails, and I did that for the first time, and it was scary, but like it was at sunset, and I was there, and I was like, if I couldn't ride, if I'd never rode like I was again, if I could just do this, like that would be enough for me. And it was like just this new perspective of like, I do love to compete, but again, reiterating like bike is freedom, bike is exploration, and bike is a tool to get to know yourself better.
Yeah, there's healing there, which is I think you guys captured it perfectly. Just what is the deeper meaning? You know, and the deeper meaning is that the bike did change the life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You know, so did all these other therapies. But, you know, in a way, this is still the goal out there to be back on the bike. And so if that's the carrot, you know, that people or you in particular are chasing, having a passion and a drive to get back well.
Yeah.
You know, to get back there. And I love that part of your mission just because, you know, to be very frank and transparent, you know, for those who may listen to this, you guys know it, we know it, I hear about it every day. People take their lives every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're married to a therapist and you own a mental health company, you hear of people ending their lives on a consistent basis. And so they're in the struggle. They are on the couch and they can't see anything beyond that.
Yeah.
They can't see healing. You know, they think they're always going to feel that way. You know, the sentiment that we often hear is, I just don't have any hope anymore. I can't ever see a world where I don't feel this way anymore, you know? And I think you just outlined this plan and a way to get back or to get into a better headspace, but you have to lean in.
Yeah.
Right. When I was watching you on Instagram, I'm like, this guy is leaning in like no one I've seen. It's awesome. It was awesome to watch. Like the number of sessions, you know, that you were going to in therapy, the hyperbaric thing too. I would have been so nervous when that door closed the first time.
Oh, I was so scared because
It's like, is my brain going to blow up?
literally on my ear, like that, I was so sensitive. Like nobody could talk in the house very loud. Like the door opening would like trigger just like this terrible pain. And so the hyperbaric, it has like this oxygen that comes into it. It's like shh. And the first day, like that's what bothered me. I was really worried because you have to clear your ears, and it was just like the sound of oxygen. It was like piercing. So it was scary. And the Instagram thing for me was not only share my story, but it was like I did the 30 days till Leadville series, and it was like holding myself accountable in a way too. Yeah. And just another tool I used to get my mind off everything else. It was just make videos, share your story, and hopefully inspire someone to do that. Like you said, like we all hear of people ending their lives. We've had personal experiences with that, like people in our lives, you know? So, and often it's hard, like you don't know, like it's not like you can just like help, like grab their hand and be like, oh, do this. But maybe I could like share my story and share the tactics I'm using to maybe help them take the first step and show them what that looks like. Because it is like, it's an issue, right? That everyone deals with mental health struggles. And there's so many out there that are very deep in that right now. And trying to inspire someone just to go out of their way and try something new could change their life.
Absolutely. What a great message. From your own personal experiences or knowing people who have had that in their, you know, be a part of their life. Now what you're doing in the mission and overall, speak to that. Just, you know, what do you hope comes from it? You mentioned just, you know, that people are inspired, but share your own thoughts on it. Freestyle a little bit that way.
I would say it's just like, it gives you a new sense of, I feel like you always hear it in school and it seems like cliche, like always reach out, but you really do need to reach out and just talk to them, because from the outside, they all look good. Like you think like the happiest person in the world. And then it happens and you're like, wow, like, why didn't I know, in a sense? So being able to just like influence people to go do something hard, or just reach out to them, go get lunch with them, or just talk to your friends that you know more, and be intentional about it, because everyone's going through that. And even if you don't have struggles, everyone likes to be talked to, asked how they're doing, what's going on in their life, and just being able to share who they are more.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think something that's hard for me is we try and be very positive on the bike and share very positive videos. And it's like that battle between like, but my life isn't always good. I'm choosing to make it like, I genuinely choose to wake up and be happy and like go about that. But it's like that balance of like, is just only posting, you know, like the fun, like we are positive humans, and genuinely like we do have a good time most of the time. But it's not always like that. Like we do have our own struggles too. And I think for me going forward, like trying to be more intentional about that. I post a lot, especially like yesterday, just like, I'm here for you no matter who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter what you do. Like I genuinely want someone to feel comfortable enough to talk to me about that. And the more I'm vulnerable, I think the more likely that will happen. Like, not only share the good and share the positivity that this life can bring, but also share like the realness of someone that is happy. I am an optimistic, happy individual, but also share that other side of I am lonely sometimes. I am down a lot, and being able to see, like have that personal level and like lose people in your life with that, like just shines even brighter. Cause like it never, not only like it's said all the time, but like the people that are close to that human that takes their life struggled the rest of their life. Like it's never easy for anyone to be around that situation, but I think talking about it can help. Yeah, like in our life specific, like we have people that deal with mental health challenges all the time, and having that be our background, and like we lost an uncle to suicide, and my dad struggles with that every day. So like to maybe change someone's life could, like just one individual's goes a long way. But yeah, those personal experiences make it all the more real and inspire me to be vulnerable and share whatever I can. Share a hand, share a story, share inspiration, whatever it looks like.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That even hearing that experience, that you're tied to a father who lost a sibling, and what meaning that has now brought into your own family's life. Do you mind sharing just a little bit more? What are you seeing in your dad, or what have you learned from him, or what has he shared with you about the impact that has had on him, and what the results are from that? Because you're now a generation removed from it, and yet it's impacting your life.
It's an interesting situation because of just like the general situation. Like we weren't super close with him, our uncle, but like, and he had a very like challenging life. The thing for me is like seeing my dad like give the shirt off his back for his brother, no matter what's happened before that. Like regardless of history, like my dad gave his shirt off his back to his brother and did everything he could to help him have a better life, like and start to make that transition. So like seeing my dad struggle with that now, like when he felt like he was so close to a better life, is hard because I genuinely don't think like he's certainly not healed from it, and it's something that I don't think he talks about a lot, but I can see that he's like struggling with it. So yeah, being a generation removed, like seeing other people hurt is so hard. Seeing like someone you respect and love so much hurt is hard, especially when it's not talked about a lot. And it makes me as a brother want to do everything I can, for my siblings and my loved ones. One fun thing that my dad shared, like at his brother's funeral, was like this fun bike trip that they went on. Like everything ties to bikes. Like him and his brother went on this incredible bike trip, and it just brought me to like tears, and it brings me to tears every time because I see me and Jaxon as that. Like this incredible exploration they went on their bikes, and that's Jaxon to me. Like I share everything with him, and like to do everything we can as brothers and as siblings to make sure we're okay, and make sure to check in with each other and just be 1% better every day, like is all more important, right? To continue, like it's not like we've by no means achieved mental health clarity. Like we're not, like it's an everyday thing.
Yeah.
And it's checking in on loved ones and the ones around you that goes furthest.
Being intentional about talking to our brothers every single day. I think that's like seeing my dad like have his brother who was taken to California, not being able to see him. And when you aren't able to see your brother, I can't even imagine that, because we try to stay as close as possible. Like us 4 brothers we try to check in on each other every single day. And then seeing like the day that it happened, he was supposed to come to Utah, and that was gonna be like our first time really meeting our uncle, and seeing my grandma walk through the door crying with my dad was really hard, and they still break down into tears every single time they talk about it, and you never want to see your grandma crying for the first time, like fall into your arms.
You guys are awesome for sharing. I ask you about it because one, you shared it and want to know more context and the background of it. But there's so many guys who struggle in a big way, major way. If you follow the statistics, you know that the majority of those who take their lives are men, and it is real and it's hard. And I don't know anything about your dad, but I feel for him, to have lost someone who he's close with. I think that's a challenge. Today, when I look at my phone every day, it's interesting. I'm on probably 10 different threads with dudes. Some high school buddies of mine, Preston and I are like on 4 or 5 text threads with guys in Mountain Green. The majority of them are cycling threads. And today, if something were going on in my life where I was in a bad way, I would reach out to the dudes I ride bikes with. It's just interesting. And it's become that community for me because I've suffered so much with those guys.
Yeah.
I've been out on the bikes. They know me so well. I've shared with them. I've been very vulnerable, with them in a lot of ways. So it's interesting that, this is crazy to say, but the guys who I have relationships with from riding, I am more connected with them emotionally than I am even my own siblings, brothers.
Absolutely.
It definitely
So
breaks down.
I appreciate you sharing it. I love the fact that his highlight moment, he was on a bike trip with his bro.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
Through
Yeah.
Yellowstone.
Yeah.
They never completed it because my dad was it appendicitis?
Yeah, he had a
His appendix blew up or something like halfway through. So
blew up.
Not enough ketones.
So me and CJ still say to this day that we're gonna go out and complete
the
it.
ride.
Yeah,
What's
that
your
would be-
dad's name?
Evan.
Evan.
And your dad's still riding a bit?
As much as we can get him
Yeah.
out. He's had some health issues the past year, so he's been off the bike, but
Health issues and works too much.
yeah. We'll get him back out on the bike more regularly again.
Yeah. Well, that's a personal story. Thanks for, sharing it with us. I think it's valuable. It's not the norm for dudes to sit and talk about those things and to share those things. And yet in the world today, it's missing.
Yeah.
There's a lack of connectedness that way. And so it's cool to know some of the deeper meaning behind what you guys are doing.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think it's really hard. Like this generation right now, I feel like it's getting more common, and then it's more shameful to talk about it. So being able to bring it to light, because it does happen, and we need to talk about it so we can make a change.
When you guys think about your own peer group and, those who are your age or younger, when you hear of suicide or you hear of major mental health challenges, there's lots of different reasons why, but what do you think about your own generation and younger and what's going on? Like if you were to try to put your finger on like, what are some of the trends or themes that you see that go on that becomes the mental health challenges or is the cause? Where do you guys gravitate to in terms of what's going on?
I would say, like, I feel like a lot of kids are getting it from school, and then also I notice it with social media as well, like super big. Even myself, like I'm super short-tempered. If I'm on social media too much, you're just like swiping away, and I feel like that you can just have your own world in a sense rather than just like talking to your peers around you. I think when you're going out and like you'll go get dinner with friends or you're hanging out with friends, like you all meet up somewhere, but you're just sitting on your phones. Like, I think that has played a big part in the mental health. At least I've noticed that myself.
Yeah, it's hard because it's like so cliche, right? Social media and phones. But like looking back, like the times that I feel when I'm feeling good, it is when I'm with people, and when I'm, you know, intentional about getting out, either that's outside, you know, doing adventurous things, or just like going to dinner with friends I haven't talked to in a while. And more recently, calling people that I've, like, instead of texting them, why not call them and like hear their voice? I think with our, like, growing up, we had like a cul-de-sac that was always outside. And I do feel like that played a huge role into like where we are now, like being outside a lot, from a childhood, going outside, playing with different friends and learning, like fighting with different friends, learning like these like skills, you know, to cope with adversity and not having like a parent get in the way of that. And then going like into team sports helped me a lot, like, cause it's just not all good and glamorous, and you go through a lot of ups and downs. But yeah, the more and more we remove ourselves from social interaction at school or after school, I just don't feel like I see as many people outside as I used to, like in the neighborhoods. Like, we live in a neighborhood. I ride through a lot of neighborhoods, and just even Friday nights, it's kind of rare to see like people outside. So even like, so at the younger generation, it'd be awesome to see more social activities like removed from technology, and even just like even like into your adult life, like being intentional about being outside and I think community building is huge. Like having a community and having your tribe to be with, like, goes a long way.
Amen. Having your tribe, man, what a huge difference in our lives. I mean, I think about what the best parts of my life is having a wife tribe, having, you know, my own family, but having my bros, like that's a big deal. It's amazing how quickly, I mean, I've been a business owner, lots of stress, different things, my professional life, all of the stressors can be managed almost within 5 to 10 minutes of being with my buddies on a bike. You know, I mean, it dissolves some of the stress and, you know, the angst in my life quickly. It's remarkable, you know, what the connectedness of community can do. You know, we had a guest on just, you know, earlier today, and we talked about this sense of being connected socially, but you can still feel connection. I don't get it. I don't know how it works, but you can be outside alone and feel connected.
Yeah.
You know, I feel a connection when I am in the mountains. I feel something almost divine.
Yeah.
You know, I don't understand it fully. You know, the science behind, you know, brain stoke, the brain science of it. But as I learn and study more about just the brain and, you know, the daily dose.
Yeah.
It's real, you know? So talk about that a little bit. I mean, you guys obviously have a cycling community, your bros, your buddies, you spend time together, but what is it about being outside pedaling a bike that you still find connectedness, even if you're alone? Like, what do you guys think it is?
It's hard. Like, I went on a ride the other day and I like posted this on Instagram because I got home from work and I hadn't worked out at all that day. It was like a Friday. I didn't have any plans to go out, and I was kind of just like a little bit down. I was tired from looking at my computer all day. And probably a little bit down because I didn't have like social plans or anything, but I was like, well, I got my bike and I haven't worked out. And there's something around like when I haven't worked out, haven't got enough sleep, haven't been outside enough, that like you kind of just feel on edge or just drained and just like no drive. And so I just went on like one of my favorite rides, got out, and the leaves were incredible. So I knew that spot would be awesome. And I was completely alone, no music on, and just like did this ride. And halfway through, like I started to feel a little bit better. At the beginning of the ride, I wouldn't say I was like driven to like work really hard yet. But as I started to pedal, like my heart rate got up and I started to feel a lot better. And I noticed like the trees were incredible. The dirt was awesome. Nobody was out on this trail. It's kind of a little bit unknown. And you start to notice these things, like from having your head down and just pedaling, not motivated, and then get on my favorite trail and I see the light shining through these beautiful trees, and I just stop and I'm like, there's no training going on today. Like, I'm just stop. I take some pictures of my bike, take some fun videos of the trees, and then I get to the top of this climb, and I'm like, I'm inspired to like take a video because in a matter of an hour, my whole day just turned around, my whole weekend. And so I went from like sitting on the couch, scrolling social media at like 4 p.m. to sitting on top of this like ridge at 6 p.m. at sunset. And my brain, like, I just like all this dopamine, right? Just like, I just felt alive. I felt in tune with the earth, like that divine feeling of like, it's indescribable. There's no like way to explain it, but being out in nature and noticing the leaves or the sun and the dirt and the sound of it all completely turned my day around. And that's just a testament to like being intentional about it. And it's not just this one experience, right? It happens over and over.
Yeah. I mean, you just captured literally the struggle in Stoke, right? I mean, when we talk about daily dose, when we finish these, with saying you've had your daily dose, what you just described is literally that. The brain is getting your shot of dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins.
Yeah.
Literally the chemicals that you feel when you are connected to a human. You can also get the same chemicals when you're out in the sun, sweating, right?
Yeah.
Doing those things. And so I don't know that we've had a guest ever capture it as well as you just described the process, but you literally can go from today sucks and I don't feel good to all of a sudden the colors of the earth are more vibrant.
Yeah, all of a sudden life's perfect. And
yeah, it's just like you can literally change the day. And so that is the, like the magic of getting out and doing what we're doing. That is what bikes can change your freaking life. I mean, they really can. Like literally, they can change a day. So it's awesome. It's cool that you just described a moment of it happening. I want to ask you, Jaxon, this because I'm curious. So, we're all geeked on spandex and riding bikes, right? We love the sport of it. What would you say to people or kids who are like, I'm not an athlete? Like, I've never been on a team. I'm not athletic in any way. Can non-athletes, so to speak, can the non-athlete still have Stoke?
I think absolutely. I feel like what makes up an athlete in a sense, right? Just because you haven't been on a team, if you can get outside, you can walk, if you can talk to people, that's like a hard task in itself. You could be an athlete in that. There's public speakers, they might not be athletes, but that's a whole different type of sport in a sense. So I think just finding your community and what that entails is up to you. And you can get outside, you can go for a walk, whether that's down to the mailbox and back. Like that could be the start of you being an athlete. Right now, you might not think what you're doing is super athletic, but even just getting outside is an athlete in my eyes.
Yeah, I like that. That's awesome.
I think back to there was a time when you and I were coaching together and we had a couple kids on the team that might have been on the margins, that were maybe, loner's not the right word, but they weren't as social as maybe the rest of the team, but as they stuck with they stuck with the team. They kept coming to practice.
Yeah.
And over the course of 4 years, they changed, and they became social and they became more competitive, whether that mattered to them or not. But it was really rewarding as a coach and as a parent to witness these kids change as they participated in, at least with the Nike team at the time.
Yeah, like
I think
right
that's
before
my
your eyes.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite thing about seeing Nike is our team. We're not big enough to have cuts or anything like that, so it's been really cool to have go through the high school when I was in high school and see so many talking friends into joining a bike team. They've never ridden a bike before, but they got talked into starting this bike team. And right off the bat, they weren't even planning on racing. Like, it's like, hey, just come to practice. Like, that's like the first step, you know, talk them into it. It's like, just come to practice.
We do with our friends still, dude.
And then,
That's the first step.
yeah. And then,
The slippery slope of the first step.
yeah, absolutely.
Positive peer pressure.
So
Yeah.
you get them to come to practice, and they weren't fast by any means, but you could see that they were having a good time with their friends. Like, they're messing around, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's the whole thing of being outside is
Yeah.
messing around, getting into trouble and everything like that.
There's no right way to do bikes.
Yeah, there's not a right way to do bikes. That's what we always say is whether you're an e-biker, road biker, downhill, like a bike's a bike, and getting outside that's the end of the day. But being able to see these kids go from like they're more indoor kids, and then they're outside having friends and going on bikes, and they're showing up to the races, and they're all running around the races cheering on people. Like, that is a cool community. Like, they have a huge community of 10,000 racers or whatever it is throughout NICA, and being able to cheer on their team throughout the whole day from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. on podiums is like, it's sweet to see.
It's an awesome community. It's so cool what they've created, and the inclusion is awesome. But I have to say this just so, again, listeners can kind of cue into this part of it. The reason that they are having fun, the reason they are stoked is because your brain is capable of feeling these chemicals when you go do the right things.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that is it. It's, you know, bikes change lives. Well, why does bikes change lives? It's because when you're on your bike, you're going to feel these chemicals that change your life.
Yeah.
They change your thinking. They change your ability to do and become someone that you love being, you know, living in the skin of, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so all of these things, there's a science to it. I don't want to dork out on it.
No, but there
you know,
absolutely is more to it. Like we say it all the time, like doing hard things, getting outside, it does these everything happens in your brain that changes your life. We do that using bikes, but that's not the only way to do it. So what we've been doing recently, like kind of starting to turn into tradition, but we did run a marathon last weekend.
I did want to ask about this, how the legs
awful.
and feet are.
Simply because it's like, there's no right way to like go out and do it, but you don't have to like train. You don't have to do, you know, you don't have to ride bikes and stuff. So whether that's running 1 mile or a 26, it's like, we want to show people,
Yeah.
just go do.
Lean in.
I love that. And it's something I wanted to bring up and connect these two things because, you know, you guys ran, which is amazing, you know, and that's rough, by the way. You know, I know that's like, you know, not a lot of training and then go run a marathon, but I really feel this way that, you know, when we're born, we are born into a world where our brain has the capacity to feel these chemicals. And the first thing we learn when we're a little baby is to walk. And even if you are not an athlete, you never run a marathon, you never show up and do what you guys did.
Yeah.
You can still walk outside. You learned it as a kid, as
So
a baby. It's so basic. Like to be outside and to walk and to have the sun on you. Talked about your mom putting you in the sun. I mean, your mom's brilliant.
Yeah.
There's wisdom behind that. That these are the very simple, basic things that when you're doing it, your brain is going to feel serotonin.
Yeah.
It is
It's
going to
proof. There is proof behind it. Like there is
It's
data behind it.
scientific proof. We don't get it, but the dose chemicals heal, they motivate, they inspire, they make you feel connected, they make you feel all of the best parts of life. So when I hear about people taking their lives, and I know that there's a lot of mental health challenges that exist today where it's not that simple.
Yeah.
It's not that easy and basic, right? There's a lot of other components that are going on. But for the vast majority of the population, 99 point something percent, if they just did these basic things, they can feel dramatically better.
Yeah.
And we tend to label it like, well, he's a biker, he's a runner, he's, you know, plays tennis, or so they're always outside. But to walk to your mailbox is in the sun, outside, can literally change your day, you know, just
Absolutely.
to get out. So how are the legs?
I've been on a run since. This is a lot better than last year.
Way better than that.
Already?
Yeah.
Dude.
Well, I made the mistake. All right, I made a mistake I signed up for a half marathon thinking I wasn't going to be able to get into the marathon. So I was like, oh, I'll run it with my wife because she's a big marathon runner.
Nice.
So I was like, oh, I'll run the half marathon with you in 2 weeks from now. And then my brother, our oldest brother, signed up for the marathon. He's like, oh, they open more spots. And we're like, well, you can't do it without us. So then we signed up for the marathon, but I don't want to lose my money. So now I'm in for both. So now I got to retrain for that.
I feel a lot better than last year. Last year, I genuinely thought I broke my foot. And this year, I, was sore. Like, I could tell I did a marathon last weekend, but I've been on the bike and at the gym again. So we're good. We're not as rough. We're getting better. But running still sucks.
Yeah.
Well done. Running still sucks.
Well, should we go get on the bike? Is probably what we should go do.
Let's
do it.
Go ride.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts? Any last advice? Any shout outs? Allie, thank you.
Yeah.
Shout out the people in my life. That
Sounds like Allie's the glue that
do
keeps
that.
it together.
Medicine is important, but
Yeah, I know. Like
always say
we've
it.
just been saying, like there's absolutely a time and place for medicine, but the struggle and the stoke can be supplemental, right? And should be supplemental at the very beginning of everything. So
Amen.
get outside.
Amen.
Love everyone. I'm here if you need me. Give me a message.
Cool. P, anything else?
I think CJ is the KOM of the hyperbaric chamber. He's got the KOM.
Shout out Chiller. Shout out Chiller in Pleasant Grove, Utah. If you're in Utah County.
Is that an activity in Strava?
I
If it is,
should
you
have.
own
you
it.
should have. Every single one of them.
It's not on Strava. It's in Whoop.
It is in Whoop.
It is
Local
in
legend.
Whoop.
He's a local legend.
I'm a
for
local
sure.
legend at the Chiller hyperbaric.
There we go.
Tell me that post hyperbaric, you had to just moose it up again. I mean, do you have to refresh after hyperbaric or does it stay?
Oh, the hair was a rough 7 weeks for the hair. Not gonna lie. It's pretty matted down and a little crazy.
You should. I was the one that had to do the hair.
Yeah, he had to help me.
And he started sparking orders when I'm doing it for him. So
My collarbone was broken, so I couldn't reach up. I had to keep it down. And then Jaxon was struggling. I had
he's
to
like,
teach him how to do
you
hair.
can't make it crunchy. You're pushing too hard. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. All right.
I love this.
He was a champ.
This is the best. This is the best part. By the way, CJ is single,
Yeah.
On the market.
ready to mingle.
just
Very on the market.
CJ, where can your demographic find you?
CJ Wiggins 7 on Instagram.
I think he's on Hinge too.
Hinge.
Swipe enough on Hinge, you might find me. But yeah, do follow us on Instagram, Bike Exchange Lives. We Instagram, YouTube, Bike Exchange Lives. But CJ Wiggins 7 personal.
CJ's a lot more active on Instagram. You'll see me on Bike Exchange Lives more often.
Nice. Nice.
You guys are awesome.
Good to have you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for
Appreciate
having
you
us.
guys.
Yeah. You've had your daily dose. Let's go ride.